There are many things I could say about my father. So many things that were important to him, so many things that he had done, was doing, and was going to do. But as is always the case in life, there is simply not enough time. Not enough time to talk of all that should be talked of. Not enough time to say everything that must be said. So I will tell you a small part of who my father was and why we loved him so. When I think of Dad, there are three things that spring to mind. The first was, of course, just how bloody stubborn he was. If someone told him he couldn't do something, then the first thing he would do was think of how he could and why he should. He was not an easy man to say no to. For if he had a plan of where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do, then the reason why it wasn't the best of ideas and the knowledge of the amount of obstacles in the way would not matter in the face of his rising excitement. His plans were not always the smartest plans, and they were very rarely the safest. But they were almost always the funnest. Many a great story was formed from a bad plan and my dad's stubbornness to see it succeed. The second thing that comes to mind is the boundless energy he had. I don't think I've come close to matching it since the age of 10. Despite his short stature, he sure did seem to take up a lot of room. It can often be hard for a child to figure out that your parent had an entire life outside your own. However, this was something we found out fairly quickly. He had so many friends arriving all the time from so many different places, each of them sharing so many different stories, that it seemed to me more as if Dad had lived 3 lifetimes outside of ours. The last thing I'll speak of about my father is his love. More than any man I've ever met, my dad loved life. It filled him up inside. But he understood a truth that many others forget. Love is not something that should be hoarded. It is something that you get more of the more you give away. Peter was a man who loved his friends, and in return, his friends loved him. He was a man who loved his brothers and their family, and in return, they loved him. He was a man who loved his parents, and in return, they loved him. He was a man who loved his children, and in return, we love him. There are many things that my father taught me in this life, but there are 3 that I will always remember. A bad plan does not make a bad time, as long as you're determined. A life that is shorter than some does not mean that it is any less full. And that those that love many will have many love them in return. Thank you.